We have a really big problem with the supposedly left wing, most of these kind of liberal parties in the UK and in the US currently. We have a big problem, and that is that they keep trying to humanize their opponents. Why? What do you want? What are you going to do with this particular strategy? Like, so for example, in the United States, I have seen both Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi say that they favor a strong Republican Party, and like there's the Republican Party, as well as a couple of people in Congress who are blocking the sweeping legislation that you need to make to make the lives of the working class better. Right? You seem to care more about being nice to your political enemies, who the people, the political party that wanted to try and overturn the fucking election. You want to count out these people at the expense of your own voter base's interests with regards to legislation that you genuinely want to pass so that you can even win the midterms. This is a ridiculous losing political strategy. Now, I thought this was only a US problem, and the veneer of centrism, the veneer of both sides have their own part to play and their own legitimate points. I thought it was only a US issue, but unfortunately, I went onto Twitter yesterday, 2 days ago now. This is on the 8th. I have to wait far too long to talk about these issues because Wes Streeting, the darling of the Blairite faction of the Labour Party, was on here praising previous Conservative leaders, which makes no fucking sense to me. These are our political enemies. These people are the enemies of the working class. These people are enemies of human fucking decency, right? Why the fuck would the people even try to humanize them? He was on the news because what we seem to have across the kind of liberal intelligentsia thought about this is that Boris Johnson, the issues with Boris Johnson, are specific to him. They're not endemic of capitalism. They're not endemic of incentive structures that drive these things. They're not endemic of the Conservative Party's platform and their complete detachment from the lives of real people. No. It's just a Boris Johnson issue. So if you get rid of Boris Johnson, suddenly that's going to fix the political crisis that we have in the United Kingdom at the moment. This is just a completely self-defeating strategy. Because at the end of the day, Labour have bought into neoliberalism. They've bought into neoliberal hegemony. They've bought into the idea that there is no alternative. And they don't think that they can ever do well unless they humanise neoliberalism. But I don't think they will. Because all they're doing is lending credence to those point of views in the first place. When most of the voter base know that society is on the downslope. They know that these policies of neoliberalism, the policies of austerity, the policies of over-marketisation have just led to worse outcomes for everybody over the course of the last 20 years. It isn't 1997 anymore. This isn't, the burgeoning 90s period where neoliberalism was all the rage and we didn't realise what the consequences were. We now know what the consequences were. People want an alternative. People want solutions. People want changes to society. And by not having any kind of opposition to these things, when we do get rid of Boris Johnson and the next election does come round, suddenly Labour are just going to lose again because they pinned all of the issues with Conservatives onto Boris Johnson as a person, as a personality. Without him, they're just going to be the Tories that people voted for before during May and Cameron. So let's watch Wes Streeting here defend the legacies of some of the worst prime ministers this country's ever fucking had. Let's go, Wesley. Let's see what you actually have to say about this.
I don't know what's happened to the Conservative Party, but I'd say to Conservative colleagues across the House of Commons listening to your programme this afternoon, Theresa May wouldn't have behaved like this, David Cameron wouldn't have behaved like this, John Major wouldn't have behaved like this, Margaret Thatcher wouldn't have behaved like this. What has happened to the Conservative Party of Winston Churchill for a Conservative Party leader to ape and parrot far-right messages that led to the kind of behaviour that we saw yesterday? It's a total disgrace.
The direct blame, you would agree, I'm sure, lies with the mob who threatened your party leader.
The mob have to take responsibility for their actions, and the Prime Minister has to accept that his words have consequences. Okay. And Conservative MPs have to accept that his behaviour...
And you can see this fucking lib brain shit that I was talking about earlier in the stream from the reporter on Sky News. The interviewer here is even worse. They're saying that, oh, hang on, Boris Johnson may have said some stuff, but the responsibility lies with the people doing the thing. And I'm like, no, words have consequences. If you're the most powerful man in the country, what you do, what you say, the laws you pass, the rhetoric that you espouse has far-reaching consequences on shaping the public discourse. Boris Johnson is absolutely to blame for the things he does and says, but that's not because he's Boris Johnson. That's because he's a fucking Tory. It's because he's an Antonian right-wing piece of shit who is, just like every single other person in the Conservative Party, completely divorced from reality, the lives of normal people in this country, And just to say that, you know, everyone's in it, all these people who do these things are just an isolated instance of just any some kind of isolated incident of people engaging in their own free agency to be able to do whatever awful far right shit they have done. To try and say that, to try and cope for Boris Johnson by trying and removing him from any kind of blame here is ridiculous. And then Wes Streeting over here, fucking Wes Streeting, saying that, oh, well, David Cameron would have done this, Theresa May wouldn't have done this, John Major would have done this, Margaret Thatcher would have done this, Winston Churchill would have done this. Winston Churchill was responsible for millions of deaths in India. He called the Indians, you know, a barbaric people. Margaret Thatcher said that was incredibly homophobic, said that people didn't have an inalienable right to be gay, was buddied with fascist dictators in Chile, blew up, people in non-combat zones just for political point scoring. Right? John Major was fucking around behind his wife's back whilst preaching family values to the electorate. David Cameron made up incredibly ridiculous smears about Jeremy Corbyn being a terrorist sympathiser, being a Britain hater, saying that he was going to destroy the country. And also, Margaret Thatcher called Nelson fucking Mandela, apartheid activist Nelson Mandela, a grubby little terrorist. And Theresa May is responsible for Windrush and Grenfell. Just held Trump's hand. The fact that Wes Streeting is going to go on legacy media and try and humanise these disgusting people is it's not only is it just like horrendous political strategy, as I laid out earlier, it's just also antithetical to everything the working class movement should stand for. Completely antithetical. How dare you, Wes? How dare you go on like national television and defend the legacies of these fucking monsters? Jesus fucking Christ, Wes. Get some perspective. How many people died in austerity because of Cameron and May? Like, how many people died in the AIDS crisis because of Thatcher? How many people died in the Bengal famine because of Churchill? What ridiculous historical revisionism is this that you're engaging in here, Wes? Just to try and, score cheap political points to be able to take advantage of this anti-Boris Johnson streak that the media seems to be going on. What are you doing? You're a deeply unserious person, and the fact that people like you are being touted as the future of the Labour Party it gives me no hope for the future. What the fuck? How are we supposed to have a Labour movement that fights working people? And by God, we will get to the Labour movement later in the stream, because my God, these people are fucking disgusting for another reason, which I will touch on, which you will see me get even more angry about the Labour Party. But even to just the fact that he's using his platform to just defend the legacies of the worst prime minister this country's ever had is just completely antithetical to everything that we should be trying to fight for, and the kind of optics that we should be trying to push to the public here. We should be. Hey, thank you very much for the subscription there, Zon. That's much appreciated. Welcome to the No Justice stream. That's always good to see people enjoying the content. It's antithetical to the Labour movement to humanise people who are diametrically opposed our interests. Because these people, as far as I'm concerned, if you're somebody who is happy being a Conservative Party leader, you are subhuman. You're not worthy of my time. You're not worthy of any kind of aggrandisement from people who are ostensibly supposed to be on the fucking left. No. Just don't do it, Wesley. Don't do it. Absolute nonsense.